Ta-da! I listened to that looping over and over again whilst at work, just so I could get timing right tonight. I hope that paid off. Of course, we did get a glimpse of mine and Barry's faces in the meanwhile. Those of you wondering what on earth is going on, welcome to Cloudy with Chance of Games, the home of the cloud gaming community. My name's Sammy McLeod. To the left of me is #Barry100. He's back. And down beneath me is Duncan, one to escape, the infamous bad boy cloud gaming himself. This is Cloudy's Roundup. Every Friday at 7 p.m. UK time, we go through all the cloud gaming services and recap the week that's been platform by platform, discussing the news, whether it's good or bad. Duncan's disappeared already. Oh no, he's back. Just back. Disappeared. He's back. I suppose
he said he's back chopped and he's on mute.
Yes,
he has his haircut. Yeah, he's still on mute.
Yes, I'm still on mute. No, I've had the battle chop, beard cut, and everything. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Unfortunately,
I can hear you now.
Unfortunately, I can hear you now. That's what my issue was there.
So, I guess, yeah. How is everyone? How we all survived the week?
Yes,
exciting for Barry and I. We've both now have our PlayStation 5s, so we can play all those games like God of War and Gran Turismo 7. We'll get onto that later. Don't worry. But yeah, Barry, welcome back. You weren't here last week.
Yes,
we had to replace you with Cloud Vet Gaming, or Cloud Gaming Vet, or Vet Cloud Gaming. I can't remember exactly.
One of the ways round.
Vet Gaming Cloud. I don't know how many more there are.
Yes, no, indeed. Glad to be back, and you know, it looks like you guys had fun with Vet last week as well, so it was a good one.
Yeah, I'd say that far. I can't speak for Duncan. I try to, but I can't.
I absolutely hated having them on. He's not invited back again. Fit is down.
We'll have to get some different guests next time then. Sending you applications.
I think you've got a few weeks before I've got another little trip. So
it might be me they're replacing next. I don't know.
Yeah,
still trying to work out my schedule for next Friday.
This nature is taking over your life now, Barry.
It's not camping next time.
It's worse. What's worse?
No. It's not worse either.
There'll be plenty of opportunities to catch all three of us on a stream somewhere on this channel at some point in the week, I'm sure. Shall we start talking about some cloud gaming services?
Why
that's
not?
Why we're here.
I think so. That's what we're here for.
Barry, do you want to kick us off?
Yes.
One of the just like the old days. You can tell Barry's back. We started with Shadow this week. Last week we tried to script it a bit more because obviously with Vet coming in, we didn't quite know what he was expecting. So we tried to get a storyline going. As a result, Shadow was placed in the middle. Despite that, we had some news for Shadow last week. We don't really have much news for Shadow this week. I did read about they are making references, quite a few references to how they've been bought out by OVH Cloud. That does mean that the rollouts of pre-orders and people who've been, I don't know, getting a pre-order since December last year might be getting their order earlier because of that investment. I'm still waiting on mine in case people don't realize I'm the one pre-ordered in December. I'm still waiting, and I don't know what I'll do when I get it. But guys, what do we think? Is this good news from last few weeks from Shadow?
I think if you look at the past few weeks in general, where there's kind of obviously, you know, there was that little bit of uncertainty, then they found a buyer. Now what we're seeing is that the the base tier has been kind of the acceleration of that rollout. It's good for people that have been waiting to get their hands on the service. obviously, it kind of, I think it probably feels a little bit of confidence that they're trying potentially just to maybe recoup. I think they're probably looking at what they've got maybe in kind of pre-orders, and then looking at how they can what they can do to kind of accelerate it and then kind of recoup some of the cost and kind of bring in some more subscription. So it's no bad thing. I think it's, it's good to see.
I will say what it could be, and I'll go slightly negative here. People jump out, people jump up the queue because of the big changes.
I think that's part of it, yeah.
I think that's why there's been a bit more movement down that line. I think it's people have been jumping out. They don't like the new price, so they're not resubscribing. And then people are just move up.
There we go. Fair enough. That's a good shout.
I think that's part of it. I think it's a mixture of both. The best place to put all that money that NVH Cloud have pumped into Shadow is to get more infrastructure going and get more people onto the system, because that's more people paying the £30, €30 a month, and that's more people using the system, getting it out there, getting it tested, getting it reviewed, which will create more PR and will hopefully turn the tide back in favour of Shadow. Whereas recently, I think Shadow's not had. Obviously, it's not had the smoothest ride over the last 3 months. I think this is the best decision they could take to try and get that money in there. Well, I don't think we'll ever get a breakdown as to what Duncan was saying with how many people current subscribers are dropping out because of the increase in price and the reduction for those who are on the higher tiers. For Boost and Infinite tier are no more. I don't think we'll know, but I'm guessing there will be a sizable chunk. But again, they're pumping that back in. They've still got the hardware and the infrastructure for it. They'll bring people into the rating or off rating list onto the systems. I think we're just going to be in a holding pattern with Shadow until OVH Cloud announce what they actually intend to do with Shadow, the infrastructure and the waiting lists.
And I think that's one of the things, isn't it? It's kind of being in that position of people understanding actually what their intentions are with the service. And kind of giving that clarity and that communication. We know, obviously, from what they've said, they're having ongoing discussions. They're kind of, they're trying to work out kind of what it looks like going forwards. I think everybody would just be really keen to see what they actually come out and say and what decisions are made in kind of what fashion they take it forward.
Indeed.
I thought we were doing a nice rotation thing today. That was all.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
Myself, Barry Duncan. Myself, Barry Duncan. Yeah.
Hashtag Barry100. Hashtag. There we go.
Stop.
I was going to say this is
hashtag, I don't know. Move on.
Let's look out for. Move on. Yes.
Okay. Are we going back to the oohs? Are we finished?
Yeah, let's do that. Thanks, Cloud. So initially, I wasn't sure what had happened to xCloud this week. We do talk about xCloud and Game Pass in general, I think. Last week, we talked about the excitement for the E3 announcements coming up. We're still in that hype, and we'll be covering that on Cloudy, won't we? Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
I was going to leave it till the end there, that you're going to be saying it. There's going to be lots of live streams coming up over the next week, starting tomorrow.
This is the same Duncan who a few weeks ago came to us and said, I think we need to scale back on our live streams. We're doing too many of them.
Yeah,
it's E3.
There's a difference, and it's E3. E3 is the difference maker. So we will be doing lots of ones starting tomorrow with, I was going to say Devolver. Devolver's just announced their E3 presentation. We're going to be starting with Guerrilla Collective and their one tomorrow at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. It's one of the two. And Barry will be singing during that.
Is that for our new TikTok account?
Yes, I need to do a TikTok. Apparently, I have to dance as well, and you, Sammy, you don't get away with it.
Apparently,
either.
I have to dance. So I'll dance. I'm fine. I just won't have webcam on. Is that okay?
It's fine.
I'm saying absolutely nothing here. At least I wasn't nominated for the dancing.
Well, you were the one doing the nominating.
You the one doing the tweeting for that? Yeah.
See how I got away with it? That was just that was some skills by me there.
Oh, we've still got a musical episode of What Stadia done now, I guess.
What?
Did you not see my tweet last
I was going to say, Sammy tweeted about this. Apparently, there's going to be a musical version of the Monday night show. We're just going to break out into songs.
Just any Monday night show, or our one specifically.
Well, no, our one specifically.
Because I know what I'd like to see for a Monday night Stadia musical show.
Oh no, this always goes
moving on. We're talking about xCloud, aren't we?
Yes.
How did we get to that from xCloud? They've announced. Barry, you're the one that pointed out For Honor to me earlier. So
yeah, we've got
this.
We've got the Wild at Heart, and we also got For Honor coming into xCloud as of yesterday, I think it was, where it dropped onto the service. So obviously that is our, I want to say, second Ubisoft title, which is now into Game Pass, and the first one, which is in the cloud, if I'm not mistaken. Looking at Duncan, thinking he's going to.
I'm thinking, is Siege not already in the cloud?
I don't think Siege is. I'm fairly certain. I have xCloud open. I will have a look right now. Just let me go and find the search bar.
Oh, a search bar. Oh, well, I can't make that joke anymore.
No, we can't.
Oh, this one works. Oh, no, actually, it does appear to be in the cloud. You are correct, Duncan. Well done.
Yeah, I'm not off. I may not be right, or what's it? I may not always be right, but I'm never that wrong. So
the way he tries to stumble through that as well.
Yes, that's a complete disaster, isn't it? Yes. But the humor was going. I've had a bad couple of days, and I'm just trying to calm down now. But at least you knew where I was going.
Indeed.
Apparently.
Shut up. It's very interesting that Ubisoft are starting to dump their titles into the cloud now on xCloud as well. Could we get a little more next week?
I said we've seen Ubisoft supporting cloud in a big way. Stadia and Luna both have Ubisoft Plus. We'll talk more about Ubisoft Plus on Stadia later tonight, of course. Some more announcements there. They've got a lot of their games on GeForce Now, and they're one of the other storefronts on GeForce Now as well. I don't think as many people realise that. So I'm not sure we'll see much in terms of xCloud integration more than just putting games on there. I don't think you'll see Ubisoft Plus as part of Game Pass, for example.
You don't think that we'll see
I don't think, no.
Ooh, interesting.
What
makes you say that?
I think you'd see Ubisoft Plus as being available on Xbox and being available with Game Pass, but it would have to be an additional subscription.
Okay. So
under the same logic that it is for Stadia and Luna, and GeForce Now is a different beast, really. But
okay, so you're of the thinking that you can pay your £5.60 for your first month at the moment, and then $12.99 after if you're in the UK, and then you'll obviously it'll be integrated into Xbox for you to better to utilize it. That's where your head's at, yeah.
I think so. I don't think they'll roll it into Game Pass like they've done with EA, for example. Certainly not without upping the price. Game Pass is ridiculously cheap for what it gets you, and we'll go on to that in a few minutes, I'm sure.
It's interesting because there's a part of me that I can see it. I can see it happening. And I know we've been talking back and forth. There's always been those rumors about, Ubisoft kind of dropping in there because we've had rumors about Watch Dogs Legion. And then there's kind of been, there has been more titles and there's been more suggestion that there maybe is a kind of a closer integration there, which is going to happen. There's a part of me does think, and I said this on the green room last night, actually, I think we may well hear something about it. And it's just pure speculation, of course, based on my thinking. But there's been too much discussion about it, which, as Duncan pointed out, in the last week or 10 days, it's died down. We've kind of got closer to E3 and that is just died. So there's a very large part of me is thinking that we will hear something this E3 about what that relationship or what that integration could hold.
I still think if we're going to get Ubisoft, it's going to be Ubisoft plus Lite. I don't think it's going to be all the games day and date. I think it would be what they've been hinting in their surveys the last 18 months to 2 years. It's like the cutoff period.
So when you're saying that be anything that's been out for a year, so you'd have stuff like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but not Valhalla.
Yes, yeah, that will be basically it. It's the not so recent stuff. If it is the full Ubisoft Plus, which gets added to it, could you imagine that going into Christmas?
I can't imagine that without a price hike.
Yeah,
I'll put that out there now.
See, this is where it all gets sort of interesting. I'm expecting that we're going to get a load of DLC for all these games coming out with Ubisoft now, because they're trying to make them evergreen, and we're going to have them constantly updated games as a service. So this is part of me sees why it could be just bunged into Game Pass. So you get your early access into it. Again, it may be a different version of Ubisoft Plus. If they go for the full one, I don't think we're going to get the Ultimate Editions. It might be, we might just get Far Cry 6, but not Far Cry 6 Super Duper Edition. There's just so many options they've got. We're just over a week away.
Indeed, yes. Plenty of announcements.
But if they do drop that, some form of Ubisoft Plus in the Xbox, it is just going to be outstanding. For people who have got Series X, and when the Series X blades hit the cloud, the amount of back compat stuff they have been doing, pushing the stuff behind the scenes, which is, again, I've been saying this for a while. I think that's the end of groundwork for with Series X blades, where it will be all 60 FPS, and it's going to be phenomenal if they actually do that. Go on, Sammy, say it's wrong.
I agree. Once the Series X blades come online for xCloud, that's going to be the next big step. And probably, I think that's the next big step for any of the cloud gaming platforms we're talking about at the moment. Unless Sony decide that they're going to drop something big, or Luna decide they're going to go to the UK. Apart from those two other very big announcements that could happen in the cloud gaming, this is the biggest one that could happen in cloud gaming over the next few months.
Yeah, we're going to probably turn to this a bit later. I'm not sure if we're going to cover. Have we got a Facebook gaming one yet, or are we not using?
We haven't yet. I think we might mention it towards the end of the show.
Yes, because. There's just been so many moves. We can just see the strength of all these different platforms going after the first party. First party is going to be massive. And there's just so many rumors out about Microsoft. They're still not done. They're going to be buying IPs up. The Ubisoft stuff. I think it's just going to get crazy soon. And everybody seems to be just buying people up. It's just absolutely mad.
We've reached that stage in the gaming market, similar to what you saw in the technology markets, the .com markets a couple of years ago. Started deleting an Epic Games notification telling me to buy some DLC for Rocket League. But yeah, I think we've reached the acquisition phase where all these all these other companies are being hoovered up, and very quickly you'll find there's only really 3 or 4 big players in not just cloud gaming, but gaming in general.
Yeah,
This
there's
is
definitely. I think tie that in with the exclusivity battles and kind of throwing cash at getting exclusivity for kind of big titles for 12, 18 months, however long they can squeeze those kind of agreements in. I think you're certainly heading in that direction, aren't you?
and you see some similarities in video streaming. So movies, TV shows. You've got Amazon just bought MGM recently. Is that might have been this week? I can't remember.
No, that was last week.
Last week.
It's recently. It's point.
He's been on the wine again.
Probably. Disney Plus and their acquisitions with the Marvel universe, the Star Wars universe. Okay, those are acquisitions they made a few years back. They're really milking them and paying off now. It's exclusivity in first-party studios are going to be a key driving force going forward.
Yeah, I think we're going to touch on this when we go on to how brilliant the PlayStation 5 is, section, which you two are going to go into. But it's... I don't really want to get it back into the exclusivity sort of talk and first party and all that, but it's becoming clearer and clearer as time is going on here that exclusive games are going to matter. And we're in a IP war, content war, whatever way you want to say that. Everybody is just trying to hover up as much talent as they can, and there's only so much to go around. There's always going to be games, there's always going to be third parties out there supplying to all these different cloud gaming platforms, and each have got their own niche, but exclusive games are going to matter for more of the platforms rather than the ones which are completely and utterly supplemental in like GFN. I think GFN have got their niche. They're pretty safe for the foreseeable future there. But all the other sort of ones, I think there is some question marks out there about exclusive games, and that's Xbox are fine, PlayStation are fine. It is Luna and Stadia where that is going to really matter, and we do know Amazon are still pumping the money into it.
Indeed. Moving on to the other part of the xCloud news, gentlemen, I hope you weren't paying too much attention in the Slack, but how many games do you think are on Game Pass right now?
See, this is the thing. I've seen this, and I've seen this earlier. I'm going to say there's the headline figure, and then there's the breakdown.
That is true. You're getting at the the right tab there. We have 941 games on Xbox Game Pass. The reason I'm bringing this up is recently you'll probably be aware of, for Stadia Pro, you've got the Stadia Pro Games Monitor, which was created and maintained by InLead, I think. Is that his work, or am I getting confused with someone else? Absolutely brilliant job. You get to track all the games on Stadia Pro. And I always thought, why isn't there anything for any other cloud gaming services or any of the other subscription services you get? We finally found one for Game Pass, and judging by the number that it's showing there, 941 games. And we'll break that down and explain why that's slightly misleading in a minute. It's fairly obvious that to catalogue all of that is going to take some time.
Yeah, just a bit. I
guess we should get into why that number is a little bit misleading. The 3 numbers beneath it are probably better in that respect, but the 941 games is all the games that are on Game Pass for console, plus all the games for Game Pass for PC, plus all the games on Game Pass for cloud. Now, in the case of a lot of those games, some of them want at least 2 of those options. Quite a few of them want all 3, so they do some games where I counted twice or even 3 times in there. So to be completely fair, you really want to look at, I'm moving my mouse as if you guys can see it, but you want to look at, I can't even point because I'm nowhere near the tab. I'll point over there. That's where I can't ever get the angles right on this because I can't think in 3D for some reason. But I've got 366 console games, 311 PC games, and 264 in the cloud, which in and of itself is absolutely incredible and takes ages to catalogue.
Yeah, the real interesting thing in this, and this is going to maybe scare some people here about where Xbox and xCloud are going. They're in the process of actually changing their store. So where that says Xbox for PC, don't worry, go down there because that's just madness. Some of them games which are coming. These PC games, there's 311. That is going to dramatically increase because they're going to be changing their store over and things like that. Phil, I have to get this right. Phil Spencer.
Spencer is Microsoft. Yeah.
Yes. Phil Spencer has already said they're going to be looking at bringing PC games to xCloud as well. So they're going to see even more crossover because there is games on the PC side which are not available on either console or cloud. For example, Age of Empires, if that's not there or will be there shortly, that is not going to be there. It's real PC-based games. But it's just phenomenal how this is all kicking off. Just remember, this is your monthly payment regime for this. You're getting all these games. And the amount of crossover is just absolutely mad. And it's worth mentioning, Sammy, can you scroll up there for just up or down to the Wolfenstein ones? It's I think Barry knows where I'm going with this. It's very, if you look at these ones, we're going to be touching this when we come to the GFN sort of section. Microsoft are playing the IP war. They have just pulled Wolfenstein and Quake from GFN. So if you think Microsoft are going to be playing nice and say they're going to drop Wolfenstein 3 or Rage 3 or what other game, the new Elder Scrolls or Starfield onto Stadia.
Doom Eternal 2 is another one that gets bandied about.
If you think they're going to be going to Stadia, I think you're going to get a wake-up call pretty soon because that ain't going to be happening. It's pulling them games off GFN, and they weren't even big hitters in Youngbloods and Quake. It's just...
Quake's got quite a big following.
It's got a big following, but for GFN sort of stuff, I wouldn't say we'd have too much there. But it's just mad that how many games they have there, and their plan is to have every single game on there, and you can buy them as well. So we're entering the cloud wars, if it wasn't clear, and I'm really, really excited to see where this goes. Because if you look at that coming soon list there, I had
the coming soon list open earlier, but that was the one.
It's just going to completely and utterly whet your appetite there. The two big ones for this year anyway are Forza. The two Forzas, Forza Horizon 4, Forza Motorsport, and Halo. Going day and date, that pays for your whole year of Game Pass, and you get the other games. And this is where the subscription model is just so powerful. Just one wee tiny one, then I'll pass on because I have to talk too much. And this is just showing you the crossover again. Go up 4. Go up 4 from Microsoft Flight Simulator.
1, 2, 3. See, I want to highlight that one.
Yeah.
Chris
Tales is going to Game Pass day and date. And there's just so many of these games which just have total crossover, and they're going into subscription services versus the buying model. This is what really, really interested to see how it all comes out. Sorry, Barry. There you go for your big rant now.
No, I wasn't going to have a rant. I was just actually going to point out something interesting whilst Sammy was scrolling up and down that list. I noticed it on the coming soon list. It's got Deathloop for 2022. Which
yes, it has.
Obviously,
and Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah, it just piqued my interest because, as far as we were aware, that there was kind of no kind of confirmation that they were going elsewhere outside of the launch platforms. So, but no, I mean, I think it goes without saying. I mean, I think looking at obviously the amount of games that are coming, and already looking at the number of games, if you think that we've had an xCloud beta on mobile, for over 12 months now, we're now into the realms of having it on PC, and we've now got it in iOS, and they've tapped in already to 264 titles that they've got available from their catalog. So, and
just again, 264.
And they're not 264.
That's M. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got the Bethesda ones in there. So you've got the likes of, you've got Prey, you've got Doom. There's just, it's not just a case of small titles. And I think when you look at that from that perspective of, as Duncan touched on, when they get the upgrades done, then you look at that as a cloud service where you've got access to all of that, as part of your subscription. And then again, that you can kind of play it on PC if PC is your thing. You can play it on console. You can play it on mobile. It's just phenomenal. It's a phenomenal offering. It really is. I've finished now. You can carry on.
I think we've done that to death. For those of you who want to have a look at that site for yourself and bookmark it, because I believe the developers of that website will keep updating it. So that is Game Pass Counter, as you see in the subtitle below. GamePassCounter.com. So literally as simple as that. Type that in, bookmark it, check back every once a week or twice a week. I think that's what we're going to be doing for the next few weeks, just to make sure we keep up to date with it. If we notice anything, we'll let you know.
Yeah, I think that this
insert social media plug here.
Yeah, this is going to expand in 2 weeks. You're going to see which ones are going to be coming soon, and which there is going to be some big game and coming there's going to be a big game going to be going into Game Pass next week, next Sunday, and it's going to be available now. They've done it before. It's going to happen again, and it's going to blow people's minds. It is just absolutely mad what they are doing. And if you compare the subscription here to the games which are on both Luna and on Stadia, there's just so much crossover, and it's only a bit more money each month, and you get access to all of them. This is the sort of places where we're going to be seeing big, massive fights down the line just to get this library expanded. And the real interesting thing that when Stadia moves into other countries, they're going to have to adapt to these different subscription models, especially in the key countries like Brazil and India and places like that, because game prices are going to be very, very sensitive.
Now Barry's changed his set behind him. As that site again, GamePassCounter.com. Check it out, bookmark it, and keep an eye out for more games coming in, especially over the E3 period. I think it's about time to move on to our next platform. We mentioned Luna a few times already tonight. Good evening, Anthony. How's it going? Going down, of course. Vet, Rock, Ruben, everyone, thank you very much for joining. Apologies if we're not addressing everyone in chat. It's plenty of news to talk about. It's the first week of the month, so obviously there's plenty of announcements with subscription services. moving on to which we had Luna, which had a bit of a quiet week actually, but did have, I suppose, a game that catches my eye a little bit because it is a racing game. Not enough racing games out there at all. A point I'll be making in another cloudy stream later on this month. But we had. I'm going to continue because everyone else is saying quiet. We had Dirt Rally 2.0.
Yes, I thought you were going to talk. Come on.
Tradition states I stay quiet during the Luna Plus because I don't follow it as closely as you guys. Last week we had someone who played Luna. We could ask him about it a little bit. This week we're still waiting, and along with everyone else who replies to every single tweet that Amazon puts out, we're all waiting for Luna to come to the UK. There is some logic flying about, but it could be very soon. We're firmly into the realm of speculation at that point. But when it does come, we'll have Dirt Rally 2.0 on the Luna Plus channel. Gentlemen,
it's just
thoughts?
It's a solid pickup as per usual. Adds to the subscription, more games. That's basically it. I think you guys would be able to talk a bit more about Dirt Rally than I could. It's a racing game. You hit the accelerator, you crash into the barriers so you don't go off the sides or into the trees or whatever.
Stay on the dirt.
It was a game that was released in 2019. It's developed by Codemasters and is in the same vein as Dirt 5, which is out on Stadia. We saw it on xCloud earlier. On various platforms, but Dirt Rally is more of a sim race as opposed to the arcade race that Dirt 5 is. I think so. Dirt 5 is more focused on short, fun races, themed. You got simpler car controls. It's more focused on having a bit of a laugh, putting some stunts, rubbing against other drivers. Dirt Rally is much more a sim racer. Around rallying, so I don't think they're actually able to use the WRC, the World Rally Championship, because I don't know because that'd be licensing. What have I done? What have I done, Duncan?
I know. Are we going to have a breaking news in a minute, Duncan?
Would I do something about that?
You would.
Yeah.
No, if you read into that. Sorry.
This is something else we might well be covering later.
I think we will be. We're going to have to cover it now because they're actually mentioning something in the middle, halfway down the paragraph there.
Oh yes. That 3-line paragraph there.
Yes. So yes, we will be talking breaking news shortly, which I don't want to say just shows different sorts of.
It's very interesting. Given the way things have gone. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to be talking first party again.
We are. We're not going to get away from that.
Yes,
fair enough.
I think we indicated earlier, anyway.
Yes.
Am I right in thinking? And I may well have missed the section where you covered Luna last week. Did you cover off the fact that Yakuza 0, Killer Queen Black, and the Falconeer are coming?
Yes.
Yes.
We did. Yeah. Killer Queen Black is available on just about all the cloud gaming platforms now. Stadia released early this quarter. Luna is coming up. I want to say this coming week because Killer Queen Black fairly active on Twitter. They did post their little roadmap thing with the Luna release crossed off or saying very soon.
I think it's the 10th.
10th.
I'm sure I've seen something about it being the 10th, so next Thursday.
So if that's true, by this time next week, those of you that are lucky enough to have Luna, you lucky Yanks, will have been able to play Killer Queen Black on there. Yanks. What do you think I said? Yeah.
Oh dear. Duncan almost had a heart attack then.
Yes. Oh dear.
Excellent.
Oh dear. Oh dear. I'm gonna have to have words with you, Sammy.
I'm absolutely fine for that. It's your ears.
Oh dear. Shall we move swiftly on, gentlemen?
Let's move swiftly on. Anything else? Obviously, I'm going to raise this. posted it on Twitter, and I found it. I found the logic seemed to work with the Ubisoft Plus announcement, and that being available on Stadia in the UK. Now we'll have it, and Canada, and some countries in Europe. I can't quite remember the list. It's not all the countries that Stadia is available in, but it is some of them.
So France, Germany, Switzerland,
Belgium, I think, is one of them. I think because I think I've been talking to Ruben about it, and he was struggling to get it working earlier. I can't remember.
Yeah, we've also got. We know it's not in Norway.
Yes, we do know it's not in Norway.
This is where you're going. I'm taking it.
Yes, basically, will Luna. The logic behind Ubisoft Plus on Luna and on Stadia in the US only was because of an exclusivity contract or a beta period they're trying to test out Ubisoft Plus in the cloud. Does the fact that Ubisoft Plus is on Stadia is now available in the UK and some European countries and Canada, does that mean that we can expect Luna rolling out soon? And I know this is peak speculation for us because we never know. And 6 months ago we were discussing it and we settled on maybe Easter, which obviously wasn't.
Yes. I'm going to say I think all signs are pointing to it is coming really, really soon overseas, because we've been able to sign up, we're able to request early access, and it comes up now. It's not available in the UK. You just have to wait. With Ubisoft Plus moving across, I think that maybe brings some more interest towards that. It is just, you hate said, yes, it's going to come, because it never does come.
And that's why I say this is about as speculative as it's probably going to get tonight, even with what Duncan's got in his pocket.
Yes,
up his pocket. Up his pocket. In his pocket or up his sleeve, not up his pocket.
Yeah, you're taking talking lessons from me.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm hoping
Where's that wine?
Yes, I'm hoping we hear about it shortly, and because I would love to see the new word beta on that, which comes the end of July, I believe, and it'll be on there along with when it launches, because we do know it is coming, even though they haven't said it. They've got their page done. It's out there. It's whoopsies. So we do know it's going to be coming at some stage, and let's see it expand, because I think they could get something really good going with that.
If only there was some big gaming event coming up in the next few weeks where they could announce it.
Maybe if they're a title sponsor of it as well, like the Summer Game Fest.
I think as well, if you look at the specific countries that Stadia have launched in, if we go back to kind of some of the stuff me and Duncan have covered in the past with job listings, where they're looking at community managers, some of those community manager roles were in some of those regions that obviously Ubisoft Plus has launched now on Stadia. So it certainly is an indicator that maybe that there is something is about to drop, and it's probably the logical move. And of course, if it is a case that it does drop, then I think we probably do have to tip our hat a little bit to Stadia, because rather than reacting to Luna going live in those regions, they've taken that step. They've made the first move. They've made that move, and I think if it does transpire in that fashion, then fair play. It's a good move.
So it certainly kept us happy over the week. Kept me happy, definitely. So I felt so vindicated. I mean, one reason I subscribed to Ubisoft Plus and played on GeForce Now is because when it eventually came to Stadia, I knew it'd come to Stadia in the UK eventually. I could jump in. I can play. I think Immortals: Phoenix Rising is the game that I'm probably doing it on at the moment, but I could use the same save file. The cross save feature on Ubisoft Plus is brilliant.
It is, and I think it's the other reason that I'm really in. It's one of the other reasons that I want Luna to kind of obviously hurry itself up and become available to us, is because with Ubisoft Plus, it gives us the ability to then kind of see exactly where the cloud services are against each other, and kind of be able to make that decision for ourselves. Up until this point, yes, we've seen people play Luna, but we've played Ubisoft games on Stadia, we've played Ubisoft games on GFN. I think some of the most noticeable differences that we can probably say is Stadia is 30 FPS, whereas your GFN, you seem to be getting, the better frame rate. So you're getting kind of a better quality out of it in that sense. It would then be nice to actually then take that other cloud service and say, well, how is it performing with the Ubisoft titles?
Just so it's another benchmark
where it is. Exactly, 100%.
It's the one gaming platform that we talk about week in, week out that none of us actually have.
Yeah.
We've somehow managed to make it this far. Once it does come out, I imagine we'll be devoting quite a bit of time on it. Because we'll actually have stuff to talk about rather than wild speculation.
Indeed.
Has come to a bit of a stop there. Should we move on to the next platform?
We can move on to the next one.
Ready?
Should we go blue, green, or red?
We've got a couple of blue
I know what it should be.
We've got two blue ones now. That's confused you now.
No, it's not confused me. I know where you are.
No, we've got two blue ones we have to cover now.
Okay. We'll go with the first blue one then.
So I suppose, yeah. Are you making up a banner for that seventh one?
I will do it. Okay.
So PlayStation Now, which for the last few weeks we have expanded to cover PlayStation in general. This week, I alluded to it earlier. We got the announcement that God of War Valhalla, was that the subtitle for the game? I can't.
I think it's Ragnarok.
I never really Ragnarok. I was Viking. I was close. In my mind, anyway. And Gran Turismo 7, which is a game I do care about, were previously announced, or at least thought to have been PS5 exclusives, are now also being developed for the PlayStation 4, the previous or current gen, depending on which way. Both PS4 and PS5 will be getting versions of those games. A lot of people are upset about this for some weird reason. They seem to think that I don't understand why people are upset about it. Basically,
I think the general perception is, and don't necessarily want to get too much into the kind of the war side of it, but the general perception is, I think there's a large element of the market that's kind of said, well, actually, Xbox with their new consoles came out of the gate and said, we're still going to support the existing consoles. So probably for 18 months to 2 years, you're still going to see our titles that are probably going to launch on the new console, but they're still going to launch on the last gen. Whereas from PlayStation's perspective, they kind of didn't really, there wasn't that same level of transparency, which I think is what people are a little bit frustrated over, in the sense that they kind of up-talked PS5, which is perfectly logical because it's, it's the next big thing. It's their great, it's their flagship console. Now that the others have kind of fallen by the wayside. So I think in between kind of those kind of communications and people kind of then latched onto the fact that in their minds, the next games that we were going to see dropping in those franchises, such as, God of War, GT7, were going to be purely for that, that new generation of console. And of course, it's kind of come to that point now where we're halfway through the year. They've announced, obviously, that there's delays, but they've then also snuck into that at the same time that they are going to be kind of cross-gen, which I think has just narked people. I mean, I think it's... Personally, I don't really have a problem with it, if I'm honest with you. I understand why and I think we've had kind of had discussions with Duncan, with Maker on this. It makes sense because right now, because of a shortage, there aren't as many PS5s in the wild as there are PS4s. And ultimately, if people are are on the PlayStation platform, they want to play the exclusive PlayStation titles. And if they can't get hold of a PS5 because they can't get them out quick enough, then the next best thing to do is make them cross-gen.
That is exactly what I'm thinking. People who have a PS4 will be happy that they can now play Gran Turismo 7 and God of War Ragnarok when it comes out. Those of us who've got PS5s, which I think now is all three of us.
Yep.
I've been enjoying mine this week. Barry finally got to unpack his when he got home from camping. And Duncan's had his for
his
ages.
naturist retreat. Yes, right.
No, I would prefer to call it camping. You can call it what you. I prefer to call it camping.
Yeah.
Protect my mind.
I'll just touch on this as well. I think there's two facets to this, as Barry has sort of said. The first one was PlayStation came out, a big song and dance, made fun of Xbox, saying we're going to be supporting our Xbox One series of consoles over the generation. You're not going to get an exclusive, or you're not going to get a big first party exclusive for the first year and a half. And PlayStation said, no, we believe in generations. That is why that is a bit of a hornet's nest. And I think they are getting called out from it. And I think quite rightly getting called out from it. The second part for me is I want to see God of War. I want to see Gran Turismo. I want to see Horizon Forbidden West as PlayStation 5 only games, just to push the hardware and see where things are going. That is why I'm disappointed in the news. Am I surprised at the news? Not really, because it always comes back to money.
I can still believe that the Gran Turismo 7 on PS5. I can believe that's still going to push the hardware to the limits.
Yes, but you're still going to be handicapped with the older hardware. You're always have to have something in there where it's going to be holding it back. And I think it's going to look absolutely phenomenal, but it's just going to be held back. If that makes sense. Or I still think it's going to look absolutely amazing, just like Horizon was, but I think it's just going to be just held back from it because you're not going to be able to use X, Y, and Z. Like the way Cerny was talking about the PlayStation 5, it's going to open up new ways to play games because it loads in like that. Because them games are still being developed for the PlayStation 4, they're not be able to make use of the SSDs the way they were talking about for moving the environments, because you have to...
Similar to the actual PS5 exclusive that's coming out
exactly
next week.
Yes.
Actually, Clank, yes.
Exactly. Where that could not be played on a PlayStation 4 because it is just jumping in and out of the different levels and stuff like that. That's why I'm disappointed with that, but I understand it. Because you can have more than one thing going on in your head at once over things. Disappointed, but understand why it's happening.
I think we briefly touched on this. We've been saying, would this been the case if they could keep up with PS5 deliveries? Do you think this is just because PS5s are still in high demand? I mean, we were both in the same queue, the same stock drip, like Barry, to get our PS5s, and our first choice of bundle went whilst I was in the checkout. You must have been around about the same point in the queue as me. Do we think that that's part of the reason? The high demand and the fact that Sony haven't been able to meet that level of high demand has meant that they've tried to give the PlayStation 4 people something to cheer about as well.
The scary thing is the PlayStation 5 is outselling basically everything going at this moment.
It's not selling anything. That's why I phrased it very specifically, because it is their best-selling console
of all time. Yeah,
of all time. But the demand is still so much higher. And once you've got one, you understand exactly why. I'll tell you about now.
The way I see it is, even if they could meet up demand, I think both of these titles I rephrase slightly. Horizon and God of War, I think they were both going to be cross-gen. The word on the street is Gran Turismo is was going to be PlayStation 5 only, and they've dropped it back. So they're
I can
going
understand that.
yeah. So it's just frustrating, but I think the only thing would have changed. I think GT would have possibly been PlayStation 5 only. I don't think it would have changed the other two. I think they were just being a bit sly, and which wasn't good.
Come to conclusion. I suppose we got you here, Barry. You've had almost a week playing your PS5.
Almost a week.
Almost a week.
I've had 4 days.
It's half a week. It's over half.
True.
What have you been playing on it? How have you found it?
So far, I've played a little bit of Wreckfest, and I've played Astro. And as Duncan is alluding to, I have also been playing F1 2020 just to kind of do a little comparison, shall we say. So I've played it. Obviously, I've been playing it on Stadia since last July. So I fired it up on PS Now just to kind of see what the performance was like there. So actually, to be honest, I was really impressed. I have to say, my experience with PS Now was not long after they'd kind of made the acquisition when the service launched. So for me, the transition of PS Now is quite a big leap for me because I'd kind of skipped everything in the middle. So I'd kind of gone from when it was in that early inception point and was a little bit crappy to where it is now, where it's kind of a very different beast with a lot more games and it's a lot more reliable. And then yesterday I fired up, I actually, as part of PS Now, I actually downloaded it, installed it, and I was pretty shocked, if I'm honest, in the difference in what I seen and kind of how I felt playing it on PS5 in comparison to Stadia. Yes, you did warn me, Duncan. You did indeed.
And to be fair, I haven't yet. I've downloaded it. I haven't played F1 2020 on PlayStation yet. But I would imagine that a lot of the difference can be summed up by having a game downloaded as opposed to streaming a game from a server.
I would say so. I mean, it certainly from a graphical perspective, there's a difference. It looks a lot more polished, a lot more vibrant. It looks a very different game almost. I felt like I was playing a new Formula One game is probably the best way to describe it.
I'm going to tell you now, you're scaring Sammy. Sammy is not wanting to go anywhere near that.
What I'm a bit annoyed about is having to restart all my career saves. But
I tell you what I will say though, Sammy, is I am faster in F1 on PS5 than I was on Stadia. So for example,
expect that.
The example that I'll give you was Australia. Obviously, I put a lot of prep in for Australia for the Stadia GP that we did, and I was in the top 3 on the global leaderboard for lap time on that. I went quicker than my time on Stadia by over half a second. I think it was like 3/4 of a second quicker than my fastest time on Stadia. And I was still in like the multiple thousandths of the leaderboard.
You're not even in the top 10%. Yeah,
I was a mile off.
Yeah. No, and that happens. We've talked plenty of times about multiplayer lobbies and multiplayer comparisons on solely Stadia without crossplay compared to other platforms.
And that's why we've been very vocal that we want cross-platform multiplayer on all games going forward on Stadia.
Yes,
because Stadia does have its absolute perks. Just to put that out there as well. This isn't make fun of Stadia comparing it to local hardware, and just want to make that clear. It's more just to give comparisons because some people may not be aware of how much of a difference it is playing on local hardware and on the current gen of consoles now. This is the current gen than Stadia. I have been talking about this for a couple of weeks, if not months now, where I feel that Stadia and other ones may need to start talking about hardware upgrades shortly.
I would agree with that, and I can certainly say now that I've got both next-gen consoles and I've experienced them both, I'd definitely say...
Got Series X?
Yeah, I've had a Series X for a few months.
That must have passed me by.
I can definitely see your point in that, Duncan. That the platforms in the cloud certainly need to have a bit of consideration as to kind of move their power forward to just sharpen up and just kind of keep ever more relevant and keep pushing the boundaries.
Indeed, Gen 2 on Stadia has been a big talking point. We mentioned earlier today about xCloud upgrading to Series X blades. Nice segue into Rock's comment. Big news around PS Now coming up. This has been something that's been rumoured for a while. They announced they upgraded to 1080p streaming a few months ago now. Rock says he's hearing rumours. I'd love to know where he's hearing them from, and indeed what those rumours are. Just give me all the information, basically. I'm excited to see what Sony have got. They're obviously planning something based on some of the discussions, some of the mentions that cloud gaming has got from Sony in their talks, in their conferences. I certainly don't know exactly what that would look like, or indeed a flavour of what it would look like. I do get an inkling it might be something about demos, about being able to stream a demo of a game. For example, take the Horizon Forbidden West game. You can stream a free demo of that using a PlayStation Now hardware, and that could possibly be one way to take it.
It would certainly be, and I think we've spoken very openly about the power of the cloud and how it gives you a fantastic ability to kind of, showcase a trailer or a bit of gameplay and turn around and say, do you know what? You can go and play it now, on this platform, and you can kind of just jump straight into it, without any downloads and kind of, and enjoy it. So I think it's certainly something that it's certainly got an advantage, doesn't it? For them, for them to be looking at something in those realms.
Indeed.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. There's just more breaking news. There seems to be some of the stuff is just coming.
They wait for us to go live,
I know. Xbox have just confirmed that Xbox Series S and X, and this is relevant for cloud because as we know, the Series X blades are going into xCloud this year and they're already in testing. AMD's DLS competitor is now going to be supported on the Series X. That's that Fidelity FX super resolution, but basically means you can boost up your frame rates, boost up the resolution with less cost.
This is the same thing that was talked about being implemented in Stadia upgrades potentially.
Yeah,
am I right?
Yeah, there's been talk about this could go to Stadia as well, because Stadia is using did I forget? Stadia is using NVIDIA or
no? Stadia.
It's Luna using NVIDIA. That's what.
Yeah. Okay. Stadia's got rumored to be powered by a custom Vega GPU, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a rumor. I think that is actually they did actually come out and say that. Geez, I can't remember.
Yeah. Sorry, I got mixed up. I've got too much going on in my head. So there's some news there. So that's going to possibly push Xbox getting higher frame rates, higher resolutions, and more talk. But that's going to be good for their cloud offerings as well.
And as Ruben said, comparing cloud and physical consoles, it's a little bit unfair on cloud to do that, and that's That's for all of them: Stadia, PlayStation Now, xCloud.
This isn't me picking on Ruben, and this isn't me picking on you, Sammy. It's funny how this talk has just changed over the last 6 months, because I
agree. I know where you're going. I agree.
Yes. Because this time last year there were the videos out there about how quick Stadia loads up compared to consoles and all this, and now the tables have turned. It's going down this route. I'm going to tell you, if and when Stadia and the other cloud competitors out there improve, it will be going back to this, and then when Xbox and PlayStation update again, it'll be going back. Oh, it's not fair to compare. It is fair. You were
as gamers, as we all are. In our cases, we now all own. I've got 2 consoles in front of me, a PS5 and a Switch, and all the cloud gaming services I'm signed up for as well. Are we dosey-doing?
Yeah. Duncan's messing with us again.
Yes.
Wasn't me. That was Sammy.
It wasn't me. Yeah.
That must have been Barry trying to blame me.
Definitely wasn't me.
Oh.
You're looking sus.
Should we move on?
We didn't even touch on the fact that.
Do we not?
Did you cover the PS Now games for June?
Oh no, we didn't.
No, I didn't. No, what are the PS Now games?
The Witcher.
That's how much I didn't cover them. I don't know what they are.
The Witcher 3 was one of them. We had a couple of Sonic games as well.
Of course we did.
Yeah.
Of course we did. We've got Sonic Team Racing, which is, again, a racing game, so it's caught my eye. That's on Luna as well, isn't it? But...
Yeah,
we got Sonic Mania, Team Sonic Racing, Sonic Forces, Virtua Fighter 5, Car Mechanic, and some other game that Duncan likes to play.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
If you have not played Slay the Spire, you have to play Slay the Spire and get that game on Stadia. With
crowd choice, I believe is.
Yes, for crowd choice and state share. State share with that game would be absolutely immense, and you can get loads of streamers on board and things like that. It has got okay. Skip. Move on.
Bring it to Stadia.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Now should we move on?
Now we can move on.
2 platforms left, and they're normally the big ones for us.
No, we've got 3 platforms.
Oh, we've got 3 platforms left. Yeah, 3 platforms left. So I counted up 6 at the start. It's the first time I've ever really counted 6. Duncan, don't make that joke.
Oh God!
Moving on.
Get the Dr. Pepper down, you quick.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, what's the worst that can happen?
No way!
Oh, we're doing a round. Okay, Stadia. I'm going to break the ice and say this has been a good week for Stadia. I feel vindicated in everything I've said about pro games. Ubisoft Plus rolling out to the UK has been brilliant news, and the indie sales put it on par. I think PlayStation announced their indie sales today as well. So this puts Stadia on a par with the platforms.
Yes, indeed. I think first one to obviously, I guess, kick off with is the pro games. Obviously Tuesday we've got MotoGP 20. Sorry, not 21. And that wasn't a deliberate. I was not taking the mic. No, that was actually an accident. So we've got MotoGP 20, Kronos Before the Ashes. What's it called?
Trials of Cold Steel.
Trials of Cold Steel. There we go.
Really?
Yes. Because obviously the next installment's coming soon, isn't it?
I remember reading it for Stadia. I can't remember if it's out there already or not.
I think it's July.
I didn't like the game, so.
And then the 4th one to round it off was Blue Fire. So, Sammy, obviously, you've done your showcases now.
I've done all 4 of my pro showcase videos, doing quick first half hour or so, or in the case of MotoGP, I did a short 3-lap race with qualifying beforehand.
And that's about 2 hours.
It didn't. No, it was about half. It was a 3-lap race.
You spent most of it skateboarding, didn't you?
I spent a fair bit of it. Not most of it. I spent a fair bit, and certainly I was skateboarding a lot more in the first half than I was in the second half. I definitely learned how to stay on the bike, I think, as I suppose everyone else has recently. Yes, I did tell everyone that MotoGP is a lot harder, Formula One or grid or even trials rising, in terms of keeping the bike upright and staying on. I feel vindicated in that by everyone saying, "Oh, I can't turn this." Like, I go for a few tips. Quick self plug. A few tips on my video, but I'm still nowhere near brilliant.
Speak to Barry. Barry knows how to play it.
Well, there you go then, Barry. How do you play it? Because I want to know.
It's I don't know how to. All I did was when I jumped in to have a look with it, as I literally did like 3 or 4 laps, and the first lap I was missing the corners quite badly, but then the following 3 laps I don't know, I just seemed to get the control right and my brake points and kind of easing off the throttle. And then kind of the points for turning in were much better, to the point that I did 3 solid laps where I did not fall off, and I got quicker in lap 1, lap 2, and lap 3. So I don't know what it was. I literally just picked up the controller, kind of felt like in the first lap I kind of learnt the errors of my ways. It was certainly no F1 car. And then obviously... the following laps, I just seem to get the knack of it and making sure that you are kind of off the throttle. I think that the biggest thing that I can probably say is learn the mechanics of how the bike works, understand the cornering. Don't worry about going fast. Just kind of go at a steady pace, learn to control the throttle, and the rest will then just come naturally.
If there's ever a game that needs a tutorial mode, not just an easy mode, but a tutorial mode where it shows up with boxes saying to turn effectively, and we know that's about leading the bike over and whatever. But the average person, the average Stadia Pro subscriber going in playing the game for the first time is like to think, "Oh, racing game. Yeah, I played F1 2020, similar tracks." Fast bikes, fast cars. Yeah, I can do this, and they crash from the first corner because they couldn't turn and they're into the gravel track on the outside. It's
Would I be right in my assessment when the pro games got announced? Where it was a headline pro game month from a value sort of perspective, but from an actual gameplay perspective, it is going to be extremely hit and miss, and probably more misses than hits.
Possibly. To be honest, I mean, I know
for me, I quite like MotoGP, but I am in that subset of people that actually have an interest in real life MotoGP, so will stick it out enough to learn how to drive the bikes. And I did like Blue Fire, as I thought I would when I was looking through it. I didn't like Trials or Trails, I can't remember. Whatever the other one was.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I definitely didn't like. Kronos. Yeah, I didn't like those, but that's okay because I think the value was in the other 2 games for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think, would you agree with this, Sammy? But I kind of feel like now, although there's been a lot of discussion about the fact that MotoGP as a franchise doesn't look like it's set to be returning to the platform, I kind of feel like after that game being pro, people probably aren't that bothered.
I think people start to understand what they might have been missing. If they do like it, then they can campaign, and it might we know it's available on GeForce now. I'd be surprised if it's not coming to other platforms. MotoGP 20 itself is available on xCloud as well. It's and again, it's very difficult for me to say. I've sort of said that because the difficulty is so steep at the start, trying to learn how to get the bike around a corner, for example. a lot of people will give up within 5-10 minutes. And that's fine. Stadia Pro, not every game's going to be a hit. There's going to be games on Stadia Pro that people like playing, going to be games that people don't like playing. But the fact that there's a good mix, the same with xCloud, the same with PlayStation now, the fact that there's a good mix means that you'll keep subscribing for the games you do want to play. Some people might really like SteamWorld games. I don't understand why they'd be a thing.
Yeah, and that is a fair point, and I think it is the benefit of the sub, really, isn't it? If you try it and don't get into it, you can kind of move on, but you may well then kind of go back to it at some point if you think, no, actually, do you know what? I'm going to grit my teeth. I'm going to learn how to play this. I mean, some people, they might just know straight away that it's not a game for them, and that's absolutely fine, but it gives you the ability to experience it, doesn't it? And it saves you going out there and kind of spending 50 quid just to find out that maybe you don't necessarily
that
like
game
it.
Never went on sale.
Yeah. So, are we?
Yeah. Are that the Stadia Pro games done? Are we touching on Ubisoft stuff?
We can touch on the Ubisoft stuff again because we talked about the fact it has rolled out to the UK, some countries in Europe and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that got announced, because that got rolled out on Monday, no, Tuesday, 1st of June, which was a bit of a shock. I think I was partway through recording one of my videos when everyone noticed. I came back, started editing, and people were tweeting Ubisoft Plus, Ubisoft Plus. I thought, brilliant. You might be right, Ruben. Strap yourselves in. This could be a long one. Yeah. We also got the blog post a few days later on the Wednesday or the Thursday, at some point this week, with some more Ubisoft games coming to the subscription.
But according to our group friend, we'll use group friend this, and your mama knows, they don't count as games because they're road games.
They're good backfill on the catalogue.
I'm trolling.
I know.
For me, I think they're all good gets. Two ones I would recommend people playing if you are not a big Assassin's Creed sort of person, but you want to maybe dip your toes into the seas of Assassin's Creed. There's your hint where I'm going.
Yep.
Assassin's Creed Black Flag could be the game for you because that is less Assassin's Creedy and more pirate ships and being a pirate. And this is where they got the idea for the long lost game, which is Skull and Bones, which has been delayed again. That's where they were going to be pushing that from. And the other game is one which is on our YouTube channel, is Child of Light. And that is an absolutely amazing game. It is a short JRPG. If you want to dip your toes in, what is a JRPG? This is a real good one to go for because it's not really, really super deep. It's pretty basic JRPG, but it could introduce you to the genre, and it is a real class game.
You can't forget the kids' game in Rayman.
Yeah, do not be streaming that.
Why not?
Do you know why you shouldn't be streaming it, Barry? No. Some of the levels are set to music. So there's like boss levels. So you're running along and you hit the jump button to the beats and stuff like that. And it's actually copyrighted music. So you might have to be it's not the full proper song, but you
can stream it, but you just have to mute the game audio.
I've
experimented that this week.
Yeah.
Two of my Pro Showcase videos, the game audio didn't work. I didn't realise until I was editing. Yeah.
Oh, can I just say this makes me feel better when Sammy says things like this because then I know it's not just
yeah,
me.
we've all done it. We've talked at length in previous streams about some mistakes Barry's made. I won't go over them again, don't worry.
Thanks.
Yeah, everyone makes those mistakes. And in the end, I couldn't be bothered to go back and re-record it. Certainly in the case of trials.
Yeah, and I just realised how long we've been talking here for. We need to get this
Indeed,
wrapped up.
I know,
we
yeah.
talked about the other platforms for quite a lot longer than we normally do.
And we've still got
We've still got one to go.
Two to go.
And you're breaking stuff, yeah.
Yes, I know. They come on. The indie sales. I'm actually glad of this big indie sale on Stadia because it's not Ubisoft games; it's other games out there, and I think the little big workshop, or whatever it's called, is the one which I think a couple of people have got their eyes on because that hasn't been on sale before. So if you're looking for that one, you can go check that out. And I'll just talk about normal. It's me talking normal, so I better slow it down.
We can move. The other thing, I guess this sort of goes into what we were talking about last week, is that these Stadia have announced a lot of games, and they've been good games. We've had a lot of very good games announced and games we've been happy to see coming to the platform. What we haven't had is a lot of games released yet. I want to say hopefully we'll see over the next few weeks. I think next weekend is the Ubisoft Forward, where Rainbow Six Siege will be announced for Stadia. They've said that's coming to Stadia 12th, 14th of June. I can't remember.
No, they haven't. I made a website.
They're covering it. They're covering it in on the 12th in the Ubisoft Forward event. So I would anticipate, and also I noticed that Stadia retweeted Ubisoft Forward's teaser for the event as well. So there's definitely something that's going to be coming Stadia's way from that
last time that happened was the Ubisoft Forward, where they talked about Immortals Phoenix Rising, and the one where Phil Harrison popped up at the end. Do we want to make any bold predictions, or
I don't think he'll be there.
You think we'll see anything Stadia specific? Maybe not Phil Harrison himself, but anything.
I will call it now. They're going to mention, they've already said they're going to mention Rainbow Six at it. I think they're going to mention it with Stream Connect. And they're going to maybe make a show and dance about that. If they do that, that would be absolutely brilliant. If they give it, I'm not talking like a 5-minute sort of job, even if they give it a good 30 seconds, not a quick glance over it. If they give it a minute, say 30 seconds to a minute of just showcasing how good that could be for Rainbow Six, that could be absolutely massive for Stadia. And could you imagine if they also dropped in, we're going to have a Rainbow Six tournament, and here's 50 grand for the winner. You have to use Stadia. That could be brilliant.
So you heard it here, folks. Heard it here first. Rainbow Six Siege tournament. 50 grand. Get practicing. That's more than what Killer Green Black offer. We get a Stadia esports team for Rainbow Six Siege.
Yes, indeed.
Exactly.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Indeed.
I'll put my foot down. That was my fist, but
rightly so. Fist foot.
Yeah.
Chop.
Okay, are we ready?
I know. We know what's next.
Do you?
Yeah, it's the one you haven't done. That was out of the original 6.
Oh, there's 2.
Out of the original 6.
We've got 2 banners. Way. Yeah,
GeForce Now, yeah. GeForce Now, and this is what makes me forgetting about PlayStation Now games this month really stupid, because I knew it was the first month of the week, the first week of the month. How much wine is in this? First week of the month, we had the GeForce Now Thursdays announcement for the month, and we have 38 games announced so far for June. That is a little bit lower than what they've announced in previous months, but it should be added that there's normally more games added throughout the month that are announced initially. And there's only 38 games ever coming in June. We're likely to expect it to be higher than that.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I think I speculated this week on GFN Thursday that potentially, with E3 around the corner, do we have stuff that crops up within E3 that you then start to see the GFN logo. We were talking about this on Thursday, where the game that came out today, Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2, was discovered that it was coming to GeForce Now, by virtue of the fact the website had the GeForce Now logo on it. So I would anticipate that potentially, or I'm hoping at least, that we will actually have some presence in some of the trailers and some indication of some of the games that are coming to GeForce Now from E3. And I think what you might see is, although they don't come within the month of June, I think you might then see that there's a little bit of an inflation to the overall quality of the month that GeForce Now have with some of those announcements.
Your turn, Duncan.
Anybody?
You want me to talk? Am I allowed to talk now?
I've talked. Barry's talked.
Okay, I'll talk. GeForce Now this month. We covered this sort of last 2 nights ago. I'll just reiterate what I said there. This looks like it's a bad month for GF, but they're only bringing 38 games, and it's just because of their standards. I do think they're going to be bulking it up during the month. I think we're going to get a couple of announcements out from E3, which is maybe, as Barry said, they're not coming out in June, but it's just going to look better down the line. They have set the bar for themselves so high that 38 games, and we're saying it's a meh sort of month. It's like, nah, this is really, it's not bad, but it's not great.
Do we have a list of how many games? We talked earlier about the Xbox Game Pass counter.
Yes,
do we have a list of all the games, or a counter of all the games that are on GeForce Now?
Not a counter, but we know every single game on GeForce Now.
But no one's bothered to go around counting them. I think I know why no one's bothered going down and counting them.
Yeah, never mind that. We also touched on this, was how many free-to-play games are in GFN now. I think we're getting close to 100 free-to-play games on GFN. So, which is absolutely nuts. And yeah, it's GFN have knocked it out from the park. At this moment in time, from what has all gone on, I would say GFN are number one this year. I would be rating them probably close to an A for what they've actually done this year.
For what we've seen, the 5 months we've had this year so far, I'd agree with that.
Followed by Xbox, and then Stadia, then Luna, then Shadow at the very end there, because Shadow.
Where'd you put PlayStation Now in that?
PlayStation Now still. That's a good point. PlayStation Now.
I put them behind Stadia, above Shadow in your order. I
think that would be a good shout as well. But it always comes back to the content, and the content is classic on PlayStation now, and you can't get around that either. So I would have them about that at this moment in time. I would put PlayStation now just below Stadia and just below Stadia by a hair's breadth at this, but that could change by the end of the year.
You see, for me, I'd put Stadia second and xCloud third, but
I'm just what I'm talking about is just general what has happened this year. I'm not talking about streaming quality or anything like that. Just the way on.
No, but I'd still put, in terms of favorite platforms, Stadia would still be top for me.
Oh, this isn't my favorite platform. So
but in terms of how I think each of the platforms have handled the year so far, I think Stadia, even though they had a big knock, obviously with SG&E closing down, I think they've had a strong year in all other aspects.
But that's the big, massive shadow which is holding over them at this,
and that's why they're not top. But we'll talk more about GeForce now, because we have 38 games. Seems to be a theme of cycling games this week.
Yeah,
and I've said for a while that we don't have many sports games on GeForce Now. Does I think Tour de France, and I think there's another pro cycling simulator type thing coming out. I think this is possibly some of the first sports games on Stadia. And yes, racing, cycling is a sport, same as motorsport is. So if F1 2021 is coming to GeForce now, please, that would count.
I was actually having this conversation with Ruben yesterday, and the previous iterations of the cycling manager were already on the platform. There was actually some of the cycling games were already there. You just might not have known unless you hadn't searched for them.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't know the rebooted Tomb Raider trilogy was on GeForce Now until I started searching. Again, we talked about platforms with massive amounts of games on. GeForce Now is another one of those. I don't think any of us really have the list committed to even partial memory. We can say, "Oh, we welcome that's on GeForce Now." We'd have to use the search function. We'd have to look it up elsewhere.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think a couple of months back, there were 800 plus titles on the platform, and a minimum of 10% of that were free to play. So, and that's probably a couple of months ago. And at that point, we know that between the 60 odd and the 38 this month, that's over 100 straight away from where they were. So, I dare say they're probably closer to 1,000 titles on there now.
It wouldn't shock me to hear that it's four figures, especially with what Ruben's put in chat there. The letter S in search bar has 937. Then four figures should easily be possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything that we think is particularly missing from GeForce Now, the announcement this month?
No,
or is it that we'll have to come back to that after we've heard the E3 announcements?
I think we would have to come back to this. What we do on our show is we give a rating of where we think it is at the start of the month, and at the end of the month we then change the rating because they always are adding stuff. Last month we rated it 9 and an 8, and we both started off this month at a 5. So we for people
this is all relative.
Yes, it's all relative. Yes, this is for GFN. It is at a 5. If this was on other platforms, if this was on Luna, if this was on Stadia, if this was even on Xbox, it would probably be a much higher rating. But because this is GFN have got their own rating system, and we use the full range between 1 and 10. Because if Stadia announced that they were bringing 38 games and a number of them games were day and date, you would be saying that was an absolutely amazing month for Stadia. If this was Luna, you would be saying this is an absolutely amazing month for Luna. And for GFN, it's like, it's average.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yes. This is the problem they've got, which is a good problem to actually have.
Oh yeah. We'd far rather them have that problem than other problems that we see, for example, with Shadow and other platforms.
Yeah, so that is it. Also, there is a couple of more bits of breaking news if you really want it. It looks like Halo Infinite is maybe coming out in September.
Should we have a quick 10-15 second pause?
Yeah.
Just while we play this. News from the cloud gaming world. Duncan.
Yes. It looks like Halo's coming out in September, according to Colt Eastwood, who is quoting sources close to Microsoft Game Studios. For people who don't know, Colt Eastwood is a big, massive Xbox.
Didn't he make all those Western films?
Yes, that's Clint Eastwood. Yes, I know. I just finished it off for you, but Colt is a big, massive Xbox guy, and he seems to know his stuff.
Just scanning my eyes on the chat now for Kelly to pop up.
Yeah, I know. Also, if you want to pick up an absolute mountain of games for $5, yes, I'm saying $5 here, there is over 1,000 games available for $5 on itch. And games, I've had a quick look at some of the games. Stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks is included.
I really enjoyed that game. I know it got
Yes.
a real hard time, but I had fun with it.
And Pikachu, you know what I'm talking about when I say Pikachu. Yeah, is on that as well. There is some big, massive games. One of the games I actually like is the Mini Highways one, or the Mini Metro. That's where you make the wee things. That is on itch. It is in support of Palestine. That is a charity bundle. It's entirely up to you if you want to do that and all, but because I know that is a hot button subject for other people, and I'm just putting the information out there. For me, I just look at it. 1,000 games for $5 is the way I'm looking at it. So that is it. And no, unfortunately this wouldn't be a playable GFM, but a lot of these, or some of these games will be playable in a browser. You won't be able to put them up. And a lot of these games would not need a high spec PC. But there's your 2 bits, 2 bits of news there. Before we go into the even more breaking news.
So we have a bonus platform, which I didn't even know about, although I probably guess it was coming. Obviously, some of you might have spotted on Twitter moments before we went live, to be honest. Unit 2, the developers of Crater, have been bought by Facebook, which took me by surprise. I don't know if anyone else really saw that coming. But one of the announcements which came in Facebook's own post, I'm hoping Duncan's got the post up ready to share. Oh, no, he hasn't. I think I might be able to get it up.
Yes, it's not me making the innuendo this week.
And he's sitting back as well. While he's trying.
I can't believe I.
Oh God!
Yeah, I was just about to put a tweet out there that we're doing the breaking news now.
Yes, put the tweet out. We're doing breaking news, and everyone who's missed all of that. We'll editor scratch that last 2 minutes or so. Okay, none of that actually happened. Unit 2, the developers who made Crater, the former Google Stadia exclusive and now also free to play on Epic Games Store, have now been bought by Facebook in what I think is quite a shock myself. I didn't see it coming in particular. But one of the things which Facebook have announced as part of their blog post is, I'll go into the whole of it later, but Crater has maximized current cloud streaming technology to make game creation more accessible and easy to use. So that's reference to Crater's own game and also some stuff I've been doing with Google Stadia. They say we plan to integrate Crater's creation toolset into Facebook Gaming's cloud platform to instantly deliver new experiences on Facebook. This is probably the biggest announcement that I've heard from Facebook about their cloud gaming platform that they've been working on. We all know they've been working on one. They announced something which seemed to be able to run some Flash games, which I didn't think was particularly impressive, but they're clearly just dipping their toe into the water. This is another big step, I think.
Yeah, this is actually quite big news. Again, I don't think people realize how big Facebook Gaming is, because remember, they're part of Oculus as well. So they've been banging up a load of studios out there as well. And I'm just going to float a couple of things. First of all, Creator going into Facebook as cloud platform. I think that's not going to be anything soon, because as you've been alluding to, Sammy, it's still in early days, and they're basically doing mobile games on Facebook as cloud services here. So that is something probably down the road, but it is very, very clear here that they are starting to. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say this. They're starting to build up their first-party studios now for their cloud gaming platform because exclusives matter. This is going to tie into Facebook gaming. Could you imagine? Here's other possibilities. They could actually push this out to Oculus as well. Could you imagine some of the creator stuff in Oculus? That this is big. I don't know. Is it this? No, I'm not saying big news. This is reasonably interesting news because this is being. They're mentioning the cloud platform, so it looks like it will be. You'll be able to play creator on your phone while on Facebook.
That's yeah, that's a relatively sizable. It was a bit of a. I think I'm agreeing with you, Sammy. I think I was a little bit shocked by the move earlier when I kind of seen the announcement on Twitter. But then when you kind of see this, you kind of think, oh, okay, there is definitely bigger moves or bigger waves that play here. And let's be honest, Facebook being the size that they are, I think it's always within the realms of possibility that they were going to make a push in order to stray into another area so that they can then.
I'm just going to say, just to add into what you're saying, the paragraph above it as well.
I'm just reading that. So they say, I'm going to go two paragraphs above it, just so I can give a context for the second one. They say, we currently have two types of creators on Facebook Gaming. Video creators who live stream games, so effectively people like us, and professional game developers who make games on our platform. With the addition of Unit 2 games, we'll expand the notion of a Facebook creator to include people who collaboratively build, publish, and share games, worlds, and new experiences on Facebook. I can't help but think when I'm reading that, I sound like Phil Harrison at the GDC. We can now make content creation easier than ever by bringing our team together with Unit 2 Games' team and technology. In the future, people on Facebook will create experiences in a matter of minutes without the need to code, whilst more advanced creators can make content limited only by their imagination. And we're building these experiences by investing in and growing a diverse engineering and product teams distributed internationally across the United States, United Kingdom, and Europe. So this sounds to me like they're going to be adopting Creator as a game engine specifically to create games for Facebook gaming.
Yes, indeed. It is absolutely interesting how this is all going to go. Again, I think people, I've been mentioning Facebook on and off, and people have been making fun of me. Correct, Sammy? Correct?
People make fun of you for everything, but I've just thought of something which I'm going to wait until after you've said.
I've been talking about Facebook for a while and mention every so often with things like adding their cloud streaming into the Oculus and things like that. I think people don't realize that Facebook are building things quite quietly behind the scenes, and I think this is the first big one out there, and I'm not sure how many people will pick up on this. I just find it very ironic that they've basically picked up a Stadia first party, a Stadia second party, and they have just made it into a first party studio for themselves. And they are going to be putting, by the sounds of it, a lot of resources into them here so they can push this game forward. I think I'm calling it a platform because it isn't really a platform in itself, the way it make their game. This could make Creator blow up out there, and it is absolutely astounding that they're actually putting the money into them. And I think don't be expecting to see Creator pop up on Facebook in the short term. I think we're talking 6 months, maybe a year down the line when we're going to start seeing it, and I think there's going to be a big relaunch of them.
Well, I think the other thing that you need to remember as well, particularly when we're not just talking about cloud, but when we're talking about games in general, there's one thing that Facebook are extremely good at, apart from stealing your data, and that is monetization. They are extremely good at monetizing, and I think when they kind of put games in, if they kind of take that into what they're accustomed to doing, then have a gaming platform with their kind of monetization skills, they've got the opportunity to look at delivering kind of games as a service with a skin and that sort of stuff, and they will make money doing it.
Gentlemen, where does John Justice now work?
That's a brilliant point. That is an absolutely brilliant point.
I think that was what I was laughing about when you were talking earlier, Duncan. How did we not see this coming in a way? Yeah.
Since Creator is now getting the money, I think I can talk openly, a bit more open than I have done. From the very start, Creator needed money. It was absolutely clear that they needed a ton of money. Again, this is the way I talk. This is the way I do things. They needed money pumped into them. We exaggerate over here. It's just a part of our vocabulary. So don't always take my things with a pinch of salt when I'm talking. This is massive news. This is awful news. It's just how we talk over here. They did need some money pumped into them to get them going, because they needed, even though that 25 grand they needed a lot more, because they need content for people to make out there. With them getting this, they can actually get everything more refined and get people actually using it. And the audience on Facebook, in both in a video and on the streaming, and the amount of people using it, especially in other countries as well, it's just absolutely massive. As we know, this isn't me making fun of people here. Facebook gaming is closing up onto YouTube for the most watched live content going forward for game making. It's like Twitch and YouTube and Facebook gaming are nearly neck and neck. This could go big, and they could really push this out to more and more people.
Over to Sammy, I think.
I don't think I can add anything to that. This is one of the these big companies. We always had a feeling they were going into cloud gaming. Google obviously announced their stuff very early with Project Stream before they announced it at Stadia. Amazon, we always knew they were working on Luna. Netflix were recently rumored to be getting into the gaming area. Apple as well. Facebook, another one of those big five tech companies. So it shouldn't shock us that they're trying to get into gaming. And cloud gaming is definitely a way to differentiate yourselves from the likes of Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo, and try and bring gaming to a different audience, which is by far the best way to grow, I think, rather than trying to muscle your way into the PS5 market. Ruben, you're quite right, guys.
Yes,
they announced Creator being bought before we went live. It's a Facebook post. I think
I just found during the show.
You found during the show.
Yeah.
It might have been live before the show, but we only found it during the show, definitely. And we thought it was worth talking about because of that short 3-line paragraph in the center of the screen there.
Yeah, it is. As we know, I'm going to be frank again. I will say that there, so get that off your checklist. That we are all Stadia fans here, despite what people may think. And this is why I am concerned about Stadia going forward. With moves like this, what Facebook are making, which you wouldn't have, if you said to me 2 hours ago, Facebook are going to buy Creator, I would have laughed in your face. But they have just bought Creator. They are investing into their cloud gaming platform to make exclusives, and they are going to push this. And they're going to push this because the paragraph above saying it's going to the cloud platform is talking about their pumping money into them. And this is what these smaller devs need, is people believing in them, so that putting the money in so they can expand. If Stadia did this, could this have done something for them going forward? If they decided to pump hundreds of thousands or $1 million or $2 million or $2 or $3 million into creative to just get them over the hump, that, as people have said here, that could be their roadblocks. That could have been have been Stadia's roadblocks, and now it's likely to be Facebook's roadblocks.
I think it's as well. I know, Andy's been a massive lover of Crater, and obviously, I think we can all probably honestly say that I don't think Crater's had the amount of love and attention it may be warranted. And then obviously it kind of came out of that exclusivity with Stadia, went to Epic Games, and then Epic Games launched Core, which kind of then sort of dwarfed it. So now they've kind of found a home where somebody will kind of, I guess as Duncan just said, show the devs a little bit of love, give them that little bit of confidence that they've got something good on their hands, and potentially give it the spotlight that it deserves, and kind of, no pun intended, but create something from it.
Yeah, I've long since come to the conclusion that Stadia's biggest hidden gem was Crater, in that it's basically a limitless world. As they marketed it, it's exactly as they marketed it. And putting it free to play was the right move. They did everything, but it didn't quite gel.
I'm just going to add into this. If they put that onto Oculus,
you tweeted at them Crater in VR, and I thought, wow,
because they've got that hub word to start off with, and you put the VR
exactly.
And then you can mix them up. You can play it on the browser. You can play it in your VR as well. Absolutely madness going forward. I've got 2 questions. I think we have to call it, because I think Barry's wrecked. Sammy needs to get onto the line, and I'm an old man that's past my bedtime.
But I do think we ought to. Can we get them to sending questions to us either on Twitter or whatever, and we'll try and answer them in separate videos, because you're right, we're nearly going on for 2 hours here. We cut it back over the last few weeks, and then this week it's blown up again.
And next week's going to be worse.
And we're into E3 next week, and then Summer Games Fest, and
I'll answer this quickly. You don't have questions answered.
It comes with face.
Yes, it's better that, isn't it?
I'll tell you what, I'll be kind.
No.
There you go. Yeah,
the platform which shows the power first with a cloud native game, something that can't be run on your box. It is going to come down to that, and we are a while away from it.
Yeah. This is the Ready Player One type experience that Jade Raymond was talking about for Google Stadia, I think towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
Obviously before the SGE news, but that's the kind of game we're waiting on.
The 3 platforms which can do this at this moment in time are Xbox, Amazon.
I'm nodding, but you can't see me.
Amazon and Luna is the last one at this moment in time. You cut off your first party, you're making things 1 million times harder for yourself. As you can,
Ubisoft will not make that game certainly as a Stadia exclusive.
Absolutely not. And that is the problem that Stadia has got now. They've chucked off their studios, and that is why that shadow is over them. I mentioned Facebook, Luna, and Xbox are the 3 platforms.
Yeah. See,
that also rules out GFN at this moment in time.
Yes. GFN, but they've always marketed themselves, or certainly recently, they've marketed themselves a lot as a companion to PC gaming. So I don't think they'd be as interested in the massive.
I think it's the utopia, isn't it? It's the thing that people are talking about. It's the concept. We've heard obviously Phil Spencer talk about it already this year about the desire and the want to focus on something that's cloud native. You touched on Jade Redmond. Obviously, she's now gone to Haven. But yeah, when you then look at the likes of Amazon and then Facebook, I would agree with those three being the three that you would.
Possibly PlayStation as well.
I guess if you took, because Jade Raymond has gone to Haven, which is a Sony studio, there's an obvious potential there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends in what world, in what way they do it. I mean, I'm going to be totally out there for a second, but similar to what Duncan's been saying about Facebook and Oculus, with Jade's vision of that kind of Ready Player One concept, PSVR, the cloud, combine that all in, and all of a sudden, you potentially could capture something which does blow you away.
Yeah, we'll move on to Charles's.
I wanted to go Charles's second question. As for your second question, exactly, Google could go back into it, but they have to start that engine up again.
Yeah, that is, both the questions are more or less the same there. As soon as Stadia wants to buy someone, that the clock starts again. As we're seeing with Microsoft at this moment in time, they have to go out there and honor the deals which are there. So the next Bethesda games are going on to PlayStation, and then you're going to have a year's exclusivity, and they're going to have to meet all that. And it also happened with them of the other words as well. This is where they are. If Stadia started a new studio right this second or bought a new studio, we would not see first-party cloud exclusive games using full cloud things for 2 or 3 years down the line.
At least.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 5.
This is where the studios... not having studios is going to really hurt them going forward. Yes, absolutely, they could go out there and buy third-party exclusives. So is Microsoft, so are PlayStation, so are everybody is out there buying. Nintendo's buying them as well. You're competing in that market. So yes, they could go out and buy some third-party ones, because I'm just going to say, look at PlayStation. PlayStation have now hooked up Final Fantasy. You're not going to be seeing Final Fantasy in any other sort of platforms now. It is just going to be PlayStation for the foreseeable future. They have dropped their money in, and you won't be seeing that. We are in IP and content wars, and the only way that you guarantee it is you put your money into the pocket, and we will see that.
Just ticked over to 2 hours, gentlemen.
Yes, and Ruben's point there, yes, they are not pushing for exclusives as well. They did say that in the Stadia makers. The Stadia makers thing is they just have to be on Stadia at the same time. They did say there is going to be some exclusives, but it's not going to be big. It doesn't sound that it's going to be big, massive ones. So this news today is a twofold blow to Stadia, because they're losing basically a second party game, and not only are they losing the second party game, it is going to another cloud platform. I'm going to be very interested to see how this actually pans out. Or is Creative still going to be updated with the same rigor on Stadia, or is it going to go away, or are they going to just relaunch it as Creative 2?
I think they just maybe change the aesthetic a little bit, but it'll still stay as just Creator. He's muted.
I'm muted, yes, yeah. So we'll call it an end. Barry, say bye.
Bye.
Sammy, say bye.
Bye.
Duncan, say